rolling on down, turning the power on.
Power Tracks is brought to you by the heartbeat of America, today's Chevy truck.
See the lightning, hear the thunder roll.
And welcome to Power Tracks. Once again, we're in Louisville, Kentucky, where we're excited to be a part of the Championship Tractor Pull. It's the largest indoor pulling event in the entire world. Army Armstrong tonight. It is a two-wheel drive competition. All the stars of TNT Motorsports on hand.
Everybody's going to be rolling in that door. Ken Lamont's here, Roush, Mike Stowe. We got a new fellow on the block named John Potts is going to be showing up with a 640 cubic inch engine, and this track is going to love that kind of horsepower, Richard.
Well, of course, they say this is the best indoor track in the world. It's a power track, so what do you look for?
Just brute, raw power. It comes down to that at Louisville, Kentucky.
We're going to get to all the action when we return on Power Tracks.
If it's power you're looking for, here it comes. ESPN and TNT Motorsports present Turning the Power On. 60 minutes of America's hottest new motorsports, truck and tractor pulling, and wild monster truck racing, featuring your favorite TNT stars and the monster trucks that fly in the sky. Plus outrageous crazy car bloopers, all for only $19.95. Call the Power Hotline 1-800-544-1000 and bring the power home. It's pure TNT.
Handles the cool for your caddy, the juice for your jag. It's the jolt in your Colt and what wins you the drag.
You want to add life to the life of your car? Give it the good stuff. Kendall Motor Oil. Pour it in and pour it on.
It's the push in your pickup, the zap in your Z, the revs in your turbo and the heart of your little GT. Pour it in, pour it on, pour in the Kendall and pour it on.
Pronto, the fastest growing name in auto parts today. Pronto, featuring quality Michigan 77 engine bearings and McCord engine gaskets. Michigan 77 and McCord, proud sponsors of the NASCAR Engine Builder of the Year Award, congratulate David Evans for a job well done and winning the 1988 Engine Builder of the Year Award. The same track-tested, proven performance goes into the Michigan engine bearings and McCord gaskets you buy for your car.
When you need to know about auto parts, ask the pro at Pronto.
Eagle One, masters in the art of visual perfection. Eagle One's professional guide to auto detailing available now at participating retailers.
And we are back in Freedom Hall, Louisville, Kentucky, for the Major League of Professional Truck and Tractor Pulling Redman TNT Motorsports style. It's a super modified two-wheel drive competition. Army, our test puller tonight is going to be Lloyd Hauser. He's out of Pumpkin Center, North Carolina. He's got a Chevrolet he calls the Daddy Rat.
The Daddy Rat. He'll be running a 512 cubic inch alcohol-burning supercharged Chevrolet engine combination. Draws that awesome #1 spot. Now, Richard, believe me, all the rest of the pullers in this class are going to be watching him to see where his weight is going to be located for this run. Test puller determined solely by the luck of a draw. The draw goes to Hauser out of North Carolina.
And a full pull distance will be 235 feet.
Weight looks good. He holds the front end down. Oh, now he powers it up right at the end of the track. When the weight came up on the sled, it caught him right around a 190-foot mark is where it caught him, Richard.
196.64. Some of the fans like it. Some say, I think we can have a better show. And a better show means one guy's name. That is Mike Stowe. He is the defending Redman TNT National Champion. He's out of Warrington, Georgia. It is a Ford F100. He calls it the Bad Dog, and it is.
Believe me, the Bad Dog Ford out of Warrington, Georgia. One of the crowd favorites wherever we go. Mike, the driver, the truck is tuned by his father. It's a family operation. His mom takes care of all the paperwork. But right now, going after the biggest of them all indoors. Look at the ground speed, Richard. He is flying out of this building. Look at that.
Right up to the sand pile. A full pull. A full pull for the Bad Dog, Mike Stowe. So your defending Redman TNT champion is the first to take it the length of the track.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad of a run, but I don't think I got my motor quite warm enough. It was wanting to fuel a little out the front cylinder. I hope I don't have a problem. It was a good run. The sled is set pretty close, I believe. We'll know in a truck or two. Boy, she was heavy. It really loaded my wagon now.
You mean right on the end of the track it started to nail you?
You ain't kidding. Boy, when that box topped and that 5-6 ton of weight and that pan hit me, I could really tell it.
So Mike Stowe has got our first pull of the night. Everyone is going to be shooting for him now. As we get you ready for John Potts out of Green Bay, Wisconsin, it's the Budweiser Excalibur King.
Now, Potts runs one of the Arius racing engines, 6,200 pounds, super modified two-wheel drive. This young man's a charger. He works the left side of the track. The ground speed's there, Richard. But remember, the weight's catching him real quick on the other end. Not going to do it, a 234.
Boy, how close can you get to a full pull? A full pull 235. John just went 234.43. So close, but no cigar for John Potts.
John, a 234 and a 235 track. You've got more horsepower than anybody out here right now. What was the problem?
Well, we didn't get our motor tuned in like we wanted it yet. It's only the third time we ran this winter, and I had a little fuel problems. I think I could do better, but I was pretty happy with it.
Well, here comes the defending Kentucky state champion. That's the hot shot of Richard Wisnut. He's out of Union Grove, Alabama. It's an 86 Chevy Army with a 468 cubic inch engine.
Well, Richard, yes, he is a Kentucky state champion. He's also the Tennessee and Alabama state champion in this class. Plus, he runs on the national tour with us. Weight comes up, looks good. Ground speed. Now the sled. Boy, it is pulling tough for about the last 50 feet, Richard.
It is yanking him hard, and it yanked him to a stop after a pull of 223.62. Obviously, this track is very, very tough on all these drivers. And that includes Richard Wisnut and the hot shot Chevy.
Richard, at 223.62. This old track is biting right on the end, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is, Army. I had everything get on the front. Hammered it and home, did the best I could.
It looked awfully good, but when you got down around the 200-foot mark, it looked like it got real, real heavy for you.
Yeah, it did. I could feel the box. When the pan rail strip, you really feel it get on you.
Well, there you see Mike Stowe. He is our current leader in the Bad Dog Ford with a full pull. Army, he's doing a little bit of work on that dog.
I think they're going to rejet the engine, Richard. He spoke a moment ago about one cylinder. The cylinder we're looking at right there was not firing right. It was pumping raw fuel out. So he's checking that problem out. He's number one, but look who's going to be coming after him right now.
Well, it's a legend in the sport, Wayne Roush out of Dublin, Ohio. He's going to have two vehicles in the competition. This is his first one. It's a Dodge product called the Little Red Truck.
Well, Roush always believes in the Dodge products. He runs a Chrysler Hemi engine. He's been very successful with them. As you said a moment ago, he runs two vehicles. This vehicle will be the test vehicle. He will be adjusting the next run according to what happens here. And what's happening here is awfully good. Out around the 220, Richard. An awfully good run.
Well, make it 230.51 for Wayne Roush. A pretty good distance. We'll see him a little bit later on in the yellow Model T, but he's not going to win in the Little Red Truck. We've got plenty more action to come straight ahead on Power Tracks and ESPN.
Accidents can happen any number of ways. An attack by a vicious dog, an injury from a fall, a motorcycle or automobile mishap. Siegel, Kelleher & Kahn is well recognized for personal injury law. They've helped hundreds of people like you collect money for the negligence of others. If you've been a victim, talk to a lawyer who cares. Your initial consultation is free. Siegel, Kelleher & Kahn, offices throughout Western New York. Call 1-800-888-5288 today.
Health clubs are expensive. Home Shopping Club lets me exercise and shop at the same time and save money.
When I saw the Home Shopping Club's price on exercise bikes, I said, there's no excuse now.
I was concerned about staying in shape, but I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a cross-country exerciser. Thanks to the Home Shopping Club, I didn't.
Staying in shape doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. Tune in TV's Home Shopping Club for great fitness equipment at lean prices.
I'm Bob Lee, Sports Center, 11:30 Eastern Time. The Knicks and the Sixers overtime in Game 3. The first place Baltimore Orioles return home. And we remember Lou Gehrig's streak 50 years later. Dan Patrick and I on Sports Center, 11:30 Eastern. We'll see you then.
And welcome back to Power Tracks, Louisville, Kentucky. I'm Richard Leake, joined by Army Armstrong. This is Ken Lamont, two-time national champion on the TNT Motorsports circuit. Now, he and the leader, Mike Stowe, they have been battling for many years to be the top gun on this circuit. Right now, Mike Stowe is in the #1 position with a full pull. Ken Lamont is coming out next. Let's go to Army.
Ken Lamont's coming after you right now. What's going through your mind? Oh, I hope he don't get it out. Boy, I'd love to beat him here at home. This is home for Kenny. Boy, I really like to thrash him boys at home.
Oh, I love Mike Stowe. What a personality on this circuit. But let's get ready for a two-time Redman TNT Motorsports National Champion. It's a Chevrolet Ken Lamont, plain old toolbox, Midnight Express El Camino.
Lamont missed the weight. Boy, that's a rarity. You notice how quick the front end came up. That's going to cost him, I guarantee you.
Oh, it cost him
The
in a
Bad
big
Dog
way.
driver standing with a smile on his face. Lamont will have the frown this evening in Louisville, Richard.
220.90. He missed the full pull by about 15 feet. Army, you noticed trouble right from the start.
Yeah, if you'll notice right about here, the weight came up. Now, it settles back down. That's good. But then it bounces back up, and every time it kites up and down like it changes the angle of the pull, and that cost him quite a bit of distance.
Well, Mike Stowe said he wanted to thrash him in front of his hometown fans. He's done that at least, or maybe Ken did it to himself by missing his weight. Get ready, though, for a guy that could turn around and thrash Mr. Stowe. We're talking about Wayne Roush. He's coming out next in the yellow Model T, and this is a guy, Army, that you told us in his first pull, he always uses that first vehicle of his as kind of a test vehicle.
You got to keep in mind, his first distance he recorded was a 2:30.51. He's trying to better that. Let's see if he learned anything. Again, relies on the Chrysler horsepower. Everybody knows the story about this young man. He was a college professor. He left that to go pulling, and he's awfully good at what he does. Let's see what happens. Trying to go on the other side of a 2:30. Right now, the distance to beat the full pull. He's not going to get the full pull. The front end comes up on him again. Roush, believe it or not, missed the weights on that one.
228.30 for Wayne Roush. In 1988, he had 23 wins under his belt. 89, he's not going to get this one. As we get ready for our next puller, and that is going to be Brad Turner. He is driving the Jim Lyons Stitches machine.
Well, the vehicle is actually owned by the company that this young man's father is the president of. That means Stitches Incorporated does not get to drive that much, but his mentor, Jim Lyons, has had a lot of talent. The truck comes on him, comes to the right. It's going to cost the young man out of Tennessee some distance. Whoa, a 220.
GMC goes 220.22.
You notice how hard he landed, Richard? They are flat leaning on equipment here in Louisville.
You know, Mike Stowe said earlier that this sled was just really yanking him around there at the end. And it shows right there with Brad Turner as he does not get a very good distance.
Richard, keep your eye on that young man. He has a future in the sport.
Well, that youngster may have a future someday also in the pulling world. So, we have only had one full pull. That is Mike Stowe's. We've got 5 to go, Army.
Yeah, that 5, John Calvert, Mike Dixon, of course, Dan Walsh. So it's not over by a long shot, Richard.
And, of course, Dan Walsh, the Irish challenger. He's one of the best there is. You know, this championship tractor pull is all part of the annual National Farm Machinery Show held here in Louisville, Kentucky each and every year. And Army, thousands of people come to Louisville, Kentucky to check out the latest in farming ideas and farming implements.
Well, Richard, if you're in the agricultural industry, this is the place to be 1 weekend a year. Everybody's here, all the new manufacturers, all the new equipment, all the new ideas. They all gather in Louisville, Kentucky.
Well, let's sit back, enjoy some of the activities that the thousands of Americans come to see every year as part of the National Farm Machinery Show. so the thousands of fans move from the exhibition halls into Freedom Hall. We are halfway through the super modified two-wheel drive competition. Mike Stowe is our leader with a full pull. I wish we had Merle Haggard here to sing a little Ramblin' Fever for us, Army. This is the Rattling Rat. It is Dennis By out of Big Rock, Illinois.
Richard, you notice a lot of the vehicles have the tag name on them, Rat, some kind of rat. The reason being, Rat is a nickname for a Chevrolet engine. Rat motor, big block Chevrolet, and that's what it takes to make the horsepower to be competitive on this professional level.
And you call this a horsepower track. It's going to take a full pull by Dennis here.
Rattling Rat, working the right side of the track. Ground speed is just not there, Richard.
Only 207.64. He was some 28 feet shy of a full pull, but we've still got 4 to go, and they're coming up next on Power Tracks and ESPN.
If you're looking for a rotor or a windshield wiper motor, yeah, you'll find it at CarQuest.
If you've got the smarts, then it's the place for parts.
Yeah, you'll find it at CarQuest.
Why run around town when they've got it all down at CarQuest?
Take it from Roy Clark and the repairmen. If it's a really tough part, then don't lose heart. Yeah, you'll find it at CarQuest.
For an ice cold bud?
Then where does she come from?
And we are down to the final 4 in this major league of professional truck and tractor pulling. Redman and TNT Motorsports with the All-American Pulling Series, Army. This is John Calvert. He calls it the poor man's pride. He's out of Maysville, Kentucky, and he'd love to win this before the hometown folks.
Well, John's a very interesting individual. He's a very successful businessman. His family is very, very involved in his pulling efforts. He used to run this truck a few years ago without the supercharger in another category. He stepped up to the supercharger, running with the big boys, if you will, and he's very, very competitive.
You know, these guys all have about the same power, so they take a lot of pride in the way their vehicles look, don't they?
Well, you got a lot of candy colors, a lot of graphics coming out now. Of course, anybody in the Louisville area, they've got the tailor shop that goes and does a lot of graphic work for him, and it really looks good. He's got one cylinder that's not hitting at all. Back cylinder, left side, not hitting, only a 7-cylinder run, but an awfully good run for 7 cylinders, Richard.
207.56 for the poor man's pride of John Calvert. So obviously engine problems hampered him.
Well, the cylinder had gone away as soon as he left the starting line.
Well, that is a shot of Dan Walsh's Irish Challenger. He is known as one of the best in the business. His pull is coming up here in another vehicle or so. And Army, I know earlier today you prepared a special feature on one of the most important aspects of these trucks. That's the weight factor.
In the two-wheel drive category, weight is the name of the game. Where are you going to put the weight? How are you going to use it? We're going to tell you about that right now. Now, the back of the vehicle is held down by the sled. When you hook onto the sled, you have no problem. All the weight is going to hold the back tires in. That'll give you your bite. The question comes in on the front of the vehicle. How much weight do you run on the front? Now, remember, both vehicles, yours and mine, have to weigh the same amount of weight. The question is, where do you put your weight? Where do I put my weight? The weight itself, you can find it at your local farm implement store. It weighs around 90 pounds. This is the standard weight that's used on the national pulling circuit. However, here comes the trick. There's a lot of weights out there that look like a 90-pound weight. The fudge factor is they're making them out of balsa wood. That 90-pound weight now only weighs 2 pounds, or they're making them out of aluminum. That'll weigh about 4 pounds. So if I adjust my vehicle's weight by the number of weights I see on the front, according to yours, I could be in deep trouble.
Now, wait a minute, Army. I've got a question about that. You're not telling me some of these guys might cheat in this sport, are you?
Well, it's not cheating until you get caught. That's what they say in racing, Richard.
And we move on as we're down to our final 3 pullers. This is, oh, what a beautiful Corvette. It's called the Vendetta. and it's driven by Mike Dixon out of Chambersburg, Illinois. Remember, they've got to go 235 feet or a full pull to join Mr. Mike Stowe there.
Yeah, Mike Stowe has put the pressure on everybody in this field. The Vendetta comes out, looks like a funny car. Looks like Saturday night at your local drag strip, but we're right now inside Freedom Hall in Louisville, Kentucky.
Let's see, what is it you call it, a mean motor scooter and a
bad go-getter? Let's see what's going to happen. Vendetta rolls out, skies to run off the start line. Now it comes back on him, but oh, that last 50 feet is so tough, Richard. A 2:08's all he could get.
2:08.76 for Mike Dixon, the Vendetta Chevrolet. That is going to be good enough right now for about ninth place here in Louisville, Kentucky. We're down to our final two pullers, but looky here. One of the final two is the guy that finished third in the national point standings last year. It is Dan Walsh, another Ford. This is the Irish Challenger out of Mouston, Wisconsin.
Part of the Walsh Brothers pulling team. They run that Walsh Brothers Candy Apple Green. Beautiful prepared vehicle. We were talking a moment ago about the appearance of these vehicles. You don't get any prettier than candy apple colors. Irish Challenger sets patiently, uses the Aries engine for the horsepower. Now Walsh will nail you right there. He's coming after him. He's going for Mike Stowe's throat. Front end up. Walsh has got the ground speed. Richard, he's taking it out of here.
He puts it right on the beach. A full pull for the Ford. Dan Walsh, the Irish Challenger, will now join Mike Stowe, the bad dog driver from Georgia, in a pull-off. There you see Dan. He is giving the signal for them to go ahead and unhook the sled. But it's a full pull, and now big, bad Mike Stowe's going to have to get ready for a pull-off against the Irish Challenger of Dan Walsh.
Richard, Mike Stowe's going to have to go to work right now. I'm going to work my way over and see if I can find Walsh as we get ready for the pull-off.
So Dan Walsh out of Mouston, Wisconsin. He is a very confident and cocky driver. He has made it to a pull-off.
Dan, it's going to be a pull-off, and you're going to be right in the middle of it, you and Stowe.
Yeah, I think I can get him because the track I don't believe is as good as when he pulled. I don't think I'll have no problem.
Whoa, the air of confidence of Mr. Dan Walsh in the Irish Challenger Army. As we look at a replay of his full pull, that kid thinks he can take it easily.
You know, I believe he might be there. He made what I would call a perfect run. The weight looked good. The horsepower was there. We might be looking at a winner right there, but he's still got to earn it.
And we've still got one more puller to go, but it's interesting right now. We have two Fords and a pull-off. We've got a Chevrolet sitting on the line ready to come out next. That is George Milligan. It's called the I Rock and Roll Camaro. It's out of Evansville, Indiana. George, an interesting story. He's a former professional football player with the Tampa Bay franchise.
Well, he runs under the sponsorship of Kenny Kemp Chevrolet out of the Evansville, Indiana area. A new kid on the block really in this sport. Football is his game. He's trying to learn pulling, and he's working from the bottom literally in the competition. Back to the sled. Horsepower will not be a problem. Consistency is where he's always had a problem with this particular sport. He seems to get a little bit nervous when he drives, Richard. A lot of times in the starting line, the first 10 feet to tell the story on this young man.
That's what I was about to ask, what we should look for as he gets ready to pull. This is our final puller now before the pull-off. Whoa.
Okay, now see what I was talking about, Richard? On the starting line, he nailed the throttle too quick. He's got one cylinder that's not working. You can see the raw fuel coming out. Just going to have to spend more time in the seat to get a little bit more accustomed to this sport.
195.10 for George Milligan and the I Rock and Roll Camaro. So he is out of it here in Freedom Hall, but we're back in it with a pull-off. It's Mike Stowe taking on Dan Walsh. Two Fords battle for the championship when we come back on Power Tracks and ESPN.
Here's some news the Noid won't like. New Domino's Pan Pizza. Fresh from the oven and delivered in 30 minutes or less, guaranteed. Domino's Pan Pizza. Thick crust, generous toppings, smothered with cheese. Sorry, Noid. Call for new Domino's Pan Pizza. Nobody delivers better.
There's an enemy in your car's engine. Friction. Without the right motor oil, friction can damage your engine and send it to an early grave. You need the special quality of Pennzoil motor oil. Pennzoil exceeds the API's highest standards for maximum protection against friction. Conquer the enemy friction with the world-class protection of Pennzoil.
Thursday Night Thunder rages on. Oh, hang on, Andy. Daring USAC midgets and sprints cap off a great night of racing Thursday at 10 Eastern, live on ESPN.
This is ESPN, the Total Sports Network.
And welcome back to Freedom Hall, Louisville, Kentucky. Richard Leake and Army Armstrong, and we are getting ready for a pull-off between Mike Stowe and Dan Walsh for the championship here of the super modified two-wheel drive competition. And Army, the track has always been known as a power track. Who does it favor?
Richard, you know, it's kind of interesting because these drivers pulled at opposite ends of the fields, and Walsh made reference to the fact that he pulled on a different track than Mike Stowe did.
Well, whether or not a track is good or bad was the subject matter of the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series Question of the Week. And this question of the week about the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series comes to us from Bobby Sage of Norman, Oklahoma. And Bobby wants to know what it means when you say the track is going away or coming around. Well, the key to a good pulling track is that the clay packs tightly and remains that way throughout the entire pulling class. Pullers say a track is going away when the clay is not packing well as a class progresses. It might be getting too dry or the vehicles are tearing it up too much. When a track comes around, the moisture deep in the track has come to the surface, helping the clay pack better. Or sometimes when several vehicles take the same route, they make hard grooves and do what's called building a road for the others to follow. In any event, track consistency is the ultimate responsibility of the conditioning equipment you see on the track after each and every pull. And if you have a question of the week about the Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series, send it to us at TNT Motorsports, 5515 Poplar Park Boulevard, Louisville, Kentucky, 40228. And if we use one of your questions on a future ESPN broadcast, we'll send you free a TNT Motorsports hat. Well, Army, if we were at a boxing match right now, we would call this the heavyweight championship of the world. We're down to two guys in a ring, so to speak. Mike Stowe is going to be our first one with a Bad Dog Ford. This is a pull-off for the championship.
Well, Mike Stowe made the first full pull. You re-pull and you order your full pull. There's only two of them. Stowe's going to go out. He's going to have to lay his cards on the table right now. Then Walsh will have to come after him. Good run, front end stays down. Now it's nice running. That's going to cost him. Hook to the right. Stowe trying to take the win in Louisville. Let's see what the distance will come up. 191.5.
So that is going to be the distance for Dan Walsh to shoot for, 191.50. Mike Stowe has set the lead distance now. Let's go trackside.
Mike, this is it. You've done your thing. You're going to have to sit here and watch him take a big, wide swing at you.
Yeah, I figured I was in a little trouble. I didn't have any more weight I could put on the front. The motor ran super then. We got it right. Boy, she made some power, and she really hooked to the ground, just stood straight up with me. I don't know. It may happen to him. Who knows? He's got to guess on his weight. So he watched me. We just won't know till it's done.
So now it's a wait-and-see sign. There you see the cone. That orange cone marks the lead distance of Mike Stowe. All the fans, thousands of them here in Freedom Hall, will be keeping their eye on the front of the sled because that's where they judge the distance.
That's an interesting point, Richard. A lot of people think it's the pulling vehicle. The pulling vehicle is not the distance they judge. It's how far you pull the sled. Speaking of pulling sleds, this is it. Down to a crapshoot right now. The Irish Childers going after him, working the right side of the track. A beautiful run. Look at this. He's right back with the same horsepower. We've got a new winner.
Dan Walsh said he could knock off Mike Stowe, and he has done it in a pull-off, a distance of 2:14.17. There you see Mike Stowe, the guy he just beat, the first to congratulate him. Let's hear it for Dan Walsh, the winner of the National Farm Machinery Show Pull.
Dan, congratulations. What a difference a year makes.
Yeah, last year down here I broke my truck in half. I still ended up with third. We built an all new frame, and we all year long have been thinking of this pull. It means a lot, and I just felt like I think I could hit the sand pile again.
Congratulations, a super job. The people in Louisville, Kentucky really appreciate the caliber of pullers such as you coming this far to participate in this event.
Get professional truck and tractor pulling and explain to all our fans out there about the tubing.
Well, the members of the Northwest Ohio Tractor Pullers Association, you see them staying there along the long black tube. Very, very important to this particular class because the indoor facilities, they must pull the exhaust out of the building. So when you run in Louisville, you have to adjust your vehicle a little bit different. For an example, you notice the exhaust on the tractor comes back over the driver's head. When they set it to sled, that exhaust goes into the big tube, and as you pull down the track, the tube takes it out of the building. The club members you see in the blue jackets, their important role is to reinstate the tube back on the starting line.
And we are ready for our test puller. It is going to be Roland Barr out of Georgetown, Ohio. It's called the Emerald Elk. It is a John Deere tractor.
Roland, a strong puller in this competition. Let's see what's going to happen. Everybody's watching his test pull, and it looks awfully good. Richard Lee, look at this. Good run. Good run.
The distance of the track is 235 feet. Roland Barr just went 231.94. So the John Deere fans are happy in Freedom Hall, and I got a feeling Roland is going to be happy with the pull.
Roland, that was an awfully good run. That's what you came to Louisville for, but now you got to sit, wait, and wonder because they're all going to be coming after you.
Ain't that the truth? Of course, I was looking to put the front end in the sand pile. That feels good, but to get up there that far without anything going wrong, I'm kind of happy with it.
Say, the sled looks like it's really pulling hard about the last 20 or 30 feet.
Yeah, it really felt tough. It got heavy awful quick there right at the end. But the pull felt good, but depends on what the track does and how the other guys got their act together. I hope it's good enough.
Let's wait and see. Good luck to you.
Okay, thank you, Army.
You know, this pro stock tractor competition, the fans get involved by what kind of tractor the guy is driving. We just saw John Deere. The fans got involved in his pull. Now we're going to see our first international harvester. It is Dennis Schnichter out of Hoyleton, Illinois. It's called the Black Savage.
Well, Richard, we've been talking earlier about how important this event is. It's the premier indoor event, but also going on each wing of this event is one of the largest agricultural shows in America. So anybody involved in the agricultural industry is here, and they are pulling for their brand.
The international harvester needs to beat 231.94. He's not going to do it. 219.24 for Dennis Schnichter. So the IH fans are kind of sitting on their hands right now.
Yeah, but Richard, believe me, we got some more IH heat setting in this class. Let's see who's going to be coming up next.
It's our first Dallas Chalmers. That's going to be David Best out of Hartsville, Indiana, and he calls his tractor one of the best.
He's definitely one of the best. Some of the crews are watching Dave to see how he's going to handle the track. You notice the driver, the intensity that he has when he sets on that starting line because they're watching all kind of gauges, Richard. We'll tell you about that a little bit later, but remember, these vehicles are turbocharged, and if you should hear a little chirping sound at the end, that's an indication that the turbocharger has reached its max, and it'll back off, and it robs horsepower from you. But that was a good run.
Well, David Best, in one of the best, didn't have the best distance. Only 215.54, so he will not win this competition tonight. Coming out next is a guy that has a great shot to win it, though. He is one of the best in the country, talking about John Lorenz out of Fresno, Ohio. He calls it the Sneaky Snake, and that is an international harvester tractor.
I like the name, Richard, and this guy can come after you in a heartbeat. A lot of people from the Buckeye State are here. Let's just kick back and watch him. He's one of the best. He nailed it right on the starting line. Look at the ground speed, working the left side. A great run, Richard. Look at the big end.
Look out for the wall because John Lorenz has just put it on the beach. A full pull for the International Harvester tractor. You can hear the thousands of fans in Freedom Hall cheering him on. We have got us a new leader in the form of John Lorenz. He is out of Fresno, Ohio.
Well, John, that run is what this sport is all about, son. You flat painted a nose in the sand down there.
Yeah, my son-in-law said, whatever you do, put your front wheels in the sand. He says, let the sand stop you.
Son, you did exactly what he did. You must have a good family relationship because you did exactly what he told you to do.
Yeah, we do. And then I got two other guys on my pit crew. I don't know how they got in tractor pulling. One's a TV repairman and the other one's a John Deere service manager. And they told me the same thing, and I just got to do what they tell me.
All right, so we have had one full pull. We've got 4 tractors to go. More coming your way on Power Tracks and ESPN.
Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you.
Welcome back to Louisville's Freedom Hall. We are in the Pro Stock Tractor Competition, and if you just joined us, you missed our first full pull of the night. That was performed by John Lorenz in the Sneaky Snake International Harvester Tractor, but now all the fans dressed in green are getting ready to cheer on Chris Little out of Tuscola, Illinois. It's called the War Wagon.
Well, I believe everybody is going to be pulling for Chris. He's the defending national champion. He's just firing it up with ether. He shoots a little ether in to get the engine going. The man sitting in the full pull position is the only guy not pulling for him. The reason being, Chris won the class last year. Would like to make it 2 in a row. As you said, if you're wearing green, you got a smile on your face because the War Wagon's carrying your colors. And look at this run. The ground speed there. The weight comes up on him. Chris going to go all the way out of this thing, Richard. 2 in a row.
We have got another full pull. This one by Chris Little. And look at those John Deere fans cheering for him. He has made it back-to-back full pulls in Louisville, Kentucky. He is going to be happy with that distance. But, Army, I noticed a little bit of problem, a lot of smoke coming out of the machine. Let's go down and get the word from Chris Little with Army.
Chris had a little problem on the starting line. The John Deere people had their fingers crossed, but in about 10 seconds later, you had them standing on their feet in Louisville, Kentucky.
Well, I had a little trouble. She didn't want to take the water today. I don't know what happened, but I may have a little problem here. It don't sound just quite right, but I got her out once. We're going to give her another shot, baby. We'll see what happens.
So if anybody's got any questions about John Deere, you've proven them snake and flat make some horsepower.
Well, we've had real good luck down here, and we're going to do our best. We're going to give it our best shot.
We'll let you and the crew get back to work. Hope you get to make it back in the pull-off.
Thanks a lot.
So John Lorenz joins Chris Little, both of them with full pulls. We'll see them a little bit later on at a pull-off. These Pro Stock tractors, a very popular division on this circuit. And Army spent time earlier today with one of our drivers in another division, Dennis Schramick, to discuss the Pro Stock Tractor division and the vehicles you see running.
Dennis Schramick runs in the Pro Stock category, one of the most interesting classes in the sport. The reason being, you don't get to see them that much indoors because they call them smokers. Louisville, it's an exception. Dennis is going to explain to us exactly what a Pro Stock tractor is. Dennis, could you give a brief explanation of where all the horsepower comes from?
Well, it comes from a number of places. When this tractor was come out new, it come out with approximately 130 horse. And with the modifications we use, we can get this horsepower up to nearly 1,000 in that area. And the differences is we can go to a larger turbo, and then we can modify the fuel system, which will deliver like 10 times the amount of fuel that it comes from the factory. And we use a 24-inch rear tire size limit. Now that's a limitation. We also use a safety device here. If something happens, the hitch breaks or something, this is an air shut-off, and it'll shut the air off to the engine.
The rear tire combination, that's kind of unique in the sport to actually have a rule on the width of the tire. Why is that?
Well, I think the wider tires are more or less left up to the bigger super stock tractors, and that just gives the Pro Stocks just a lower limitation.
So we are down to our final 3 competitors in this division, Army. Coming out next is going to be another John Deere tractor, Greg Freeze. He is out of Manchester, Tennessee. It's called the Freeze Farms tractor. And I'll tell you, that was an interesting piece you did there with Dennis.
Well, I'll tell you, these tractors are very, very interesting to me. What he said, the fact that they'll come out with 130 horsepower, and you don't do anything externally except add one turbocharger, and they'll generate 2,000 horsepower. I can't think of any other motorsport form that'll make that much horsepower where you don't have to make a whole lot of changes. These things are just great to watch. They really get after it.
And it's going to take a full pull by our final 3 drivers to get into a pull-off. Greg Freeze is not going to do it, Army.
He worked the left side of the track. A good run for him, but like you said, you got to go all the way if you're going to go to the second round of this party.
215.83 for Greg Freeze. So the John Deere people are continuing to sit on their hands as you saw the green hats in the audience here in Freedom Hall. This is Scott Snyder, good-looking kid out of Edison, Ohio. It is called the Road Farmer. It also is a John Deere.
The John Deere's still trying to find the right combination to get on the other end. We've got one of them. Little is already out here with the John Deere, so we know it can do it. The question is, how do you get the horsepower to stick to the track? Amount of ground speed is awesome here, Richard. You know, after you're watching all the big automobile engines run, you come in, you watch one of these run at the single engine. It's just amazing the amount of horsepower they can lay down, and he nets a 219. Will not be in a pull-off, but I know he's got to be kind of tickled with that run.
Scott Snyder, 219.33. That is the War Wagon driver of Chris Little. He is already assured of being in the pull-off as we have got one to go.
Richard, we just heard there's a possibility Chris may not be back. He and the crew are discussing they may not come back for that pull-off. That could be tough.
Engine problem.
Well, we don't know. Where the word is rumored around that the John Deere may not make it back, but carrying the colors again for John Deere, look who's coming out now. This kid can hammer you real hard.
All right, that's going to be Rudy Huber out of Tuscola, Illinois. It is called the Midnight Flyer, and he's letting her loose.
Notice the intensity of Rudy on that starting line. He was checking all the gauges, working the center of the track. Ground speed's not going to be there. Richard, a unique situation. That's a good run. He started hooking and coming over. He's taking it as far as he can, but only a 2:15.63 for Rudy.
So Rudy Huber is not going to do it. Look here. Chris Little is shaking the hands of John Lorenz. Chris is not going to be able to come back for the pull-off, so John Lorenz is going to be the winner. Disappointment for Chris Little as his engine has broken down, and he will not be able to pull off against John.
Any win's a good win, and you are the winner tonight. We understand Chris will not be back for the pull-off.
Well, I'm sorry that Chris is broke, but I'm sure glad to be the winner. Chris won this class last year. Last year was our first year down here, and we came in fourth and disappointed. We really had our hearts set on doing a little better this year, so I'm really pleased.
So our congratulations to John with his win. Here's our final top five. In fifth place tonight, Dennis Schnichter. Fourth went to Scott Snyder. Third place, Roland Barr. Second went to Chris Little, who could not make it into the pull-off. The winner was John Lorenz. For Army Armstrong, I'm Richard Leake. We'll see you again on the tracks across America.
Join us next time for Power Tracks, the most powerful sport on earth.